Maybe you're looking to grow, maybe you're just coming out of a feast or famine cycle. In this video, we're going to talk about how to get consulting clients. If you're a solo expert or you're the founder of a micro business and you're looking to get high-end consulting clients, then you need a different playbook than everybody else in the marketplace. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 most important business growth strategies that need to be in your playbook. And before we wrap up, I'm going to share with you one thing that you should never ever do if you want to be taken seriously by discerning busy decision makers. Let's get into it. Let's start first with the key to winning high-end consulting clients. Despite what you may have heard, what you don't need is just visibility or even proximity to your right fit clients. What you need more than anything is engagement with your right fit decision makers. And when I say engagement, I'm not talking about engagement on LinkedIn and Instagram where people are doing follows and likes and comments. When I say engagement with your right fit decision makers, I'm talking about them actually engaging with you and your team in real exchanges where you have their undivided attention, where you're adding value, where they're asking questions, where they're spending quality time with you and or with your team, depending on the size of your business, and you're really owning that mind share, and you are influencing the way that those decision makers are thinking about solving problems inside their organization, whatever problem it is that you help companies solve. Now let's look at the 3 most important strategies that need to be in your playbook if you're looking to attract high-end consulting clients to your business. Option number 1 is to use other organizations' platforms to your advantage. You know, one of the great things about selling to B2B decision makers and corporate decision makers and organizations inside of all kinds of organizations, whether mid-market companies or nonprofits or higher education, is that these decision makers already have centers of influence that they turn to for insights, expertise, knowledge about what's happening inside of their industry and organizations like theirs. And you can take advantage of these pre-built audiences instead of having to worry about building your audience from scratch like people often do on things like TikTok and Instagram. You can look for industry associations, professional associations, even things like technology councils and other types of business organizations that are in your backyard. All of these centers of influence already have platforms that they have built over the last 10, 20, 30, in some cases, even 50 years that these associations have been around. They have printed magazines, they have podcasts, they have blogs, they have social media channels, they have local events, regional events, national events, even international conferences. They have webinars, master classes, virtual conversations, executive roundtables, panel discussions, and many, many other opportunities. And they are always looking for experts to come into these platforms and deliver high-end, true value to their members of their organization. And so this is a perfect opportunity for you. It's a maximizer and an accelerator instead of you having to build your audience from scratch. And one of the best ways to do this is for you to get involved in some of these organizations. You know, it's shocking how often folks will say, I don't want to have to spend $995 to attend that event. And yet they will spend 6 months of their life or 12 months of their life trying to get followers on, say, LinkedIn. Oftentimes, the cheapest way to pay for something is with money. And so by simply hopping on that plane or driving downtown and attending some of these events where your decision makers are, you can meet the decision makers inside those centers of influence, inside those industry associations, those professional associations. You can build relationships with them, you can schedule meetings with them, and find out opportunities where you can bring your expertise to bear on their platforms. And here's an extra tip about this. Oftentimes, the fastest and the easiest way to get started leveraging other organizations' platforms is to be on their podcasts. requires no travel from you. They are constantly looking for expertise to fill that channel. And here's something else to keep in mind. You don't want to focus on being on other small business owners' podcasts. Those are a fine place to practice your messaging and hone your expertise, but they don't have the built-in audience that you're looking for. So make sure you're going after those podcasts. One of our favorite places to find the list of industry podcasts that are out there is on a site called FeedSpot. So that's a great place to go if you're looking for industry or professional podcasts that already have B2B decision makers listening and tuning in. Strategy number 2 is to create your own engagement platform. Yes, it's awesome to leverage those engagement platforms that other organizations have already created, but there's also value in having your own engagement platform, and that can be a regular masterclass, webinar, executive roundtable, or other type of virtual conversation that you're hosting. Where a lot of folks really get lost in the sauce in this strategy is they try it once or twice and then they give up. There's a big difference between choosing to host a one-off webinar versus actually branding your platform and treating it as something that you do every 4 to 6 weeks again and again and again. In today's world where there is so much content being posted by the second on places like YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, etc., you need to make sure that you're pulling people off of those platforms, really owning the mind share of the room. And it is great to speak on other organizations' platforms, but then you are subject to their schedule, when they promote it, how often they promote it, whether or not you can use calls to action or not, who's in the room, and even sometimes what content, what topics they want you to speak to. When you own your own engagement platform, you can control the timing, the topics, you can control the audience, you can make it invite only and make sure your competitors aren't there. You can even make sure it's targeted at certain levels of decision makers inside of organizations. You can control exactly what you're teaching and talking about, the conversations that you're facilitating. You get to choose which calls to action you use at the end or in the middle or wherever you want to put them. And here's one other piece to this that I think folks often lose in the conversation. And that is when it is your engagement platform and you're the one leading the conversation and facilitating the conversation, all of the insights, all of the knowledge that's being shared in the questions and in the conversations and the breakouts and the roundtables, all of those insights are now your insights. You're getting to be that fly on the wall. You're getting to gather insights that no one else in the marketplace is hearing. That conversation is yours, and you're able to take that knowledge and repackage it and really elevate your thought leadership in a way you can't by just regurgitating what everybody else is saying on the web or on social media, right? So it really elevates you. And last piece about this, so important, it gives you an opportunity to have a trade with other organizations. Let's say you're building a relationship with the head of the regional chapter of an industry association. And maybe you're working to get invited to deliver a webinar or deliver a master class to their members. You can use your engagement platform in order to invite that CEO, that president, that director to come present to your audience. And it creates essentially a relationship bargaining chip, which is really, really powerful when you are looking to build relationships out in the B2B marketplace. So it's not something to just kind of take for granted. You really want to use that strategically. And strategy number 3 is to focus on one-to-one engagement. Yes, this takes more time than getting visibility with one-to-many on a center of influences platform or on your webinar platform or your podcast platform or whatever your platform is. But nothing beats one-to-one conversations with decision makers. You're sacrificing, in this case, quantity for tremendous quality. And the thing is, you have to be strategic in how you book these one-to-one conversations. The mistake that a lot of consultants make is that they wait for a decision maker to reach out to them to express interest in working with them, Or alternatively, they approach these conversations as though they are supposed to be sales pitches. And neither of those choices is a good one. Instead, you want to think of yourself as an architect. You want to engineer reasons that decision makers would want to spend 30, 45, 60 minutes with you. We call these reasons that you're engineering bridge strategies because they bridge from folks just knowing who you are, perhaps being a casual connection, or them seeing you speak at a conference, to you actually bridging into those one-to-one conversations. And this is really, in our mind at Bold House, the most important part of any business development strategy there is, because all the visibility in the world that you get, I mean, let's face it, you can buy visibility. You can buy speaking opportunities at conferences. So you can buy that visibility. But if that visibility doesn't turn into one-to-one meetings with decision makers, where you can really influence their thinking, build your credibility, develop rapport, build trust, then what's the point of the visibility? So these bridge strategies are really, really important. And I want to give you a couple of examples of bridge strategies that work really, really well. One bridge strategy that's fantastic is to conduct insights interviews, where you put together a pulse survey, a pulse report out to the industry. But you do that by booking one-to-one interviews with real decision makers, where you're able to spend 30, 40 minutes with them, hearing about the challenges that they're seeing, their priorities, their perspectives. And one of the benefits of a decision maker doing this is that in exchange for that, you will then privately brief them on the finished report, on the finished sort of pulse survey that you're doing with, let's say, 15 to 20 other decision makers out in the market. And right now there is this tremendous, given all the headwinds and how challenging the market has been as of late, decision makers are really, really curious what everyone else in the marketplace is doing. So you can really take advantage of that to your benefit by setting up these insights interviews and then promising to then debrief these decision makers on what everyone else is doing. Another great bridge strategy is to conduct an assessment or a set of assessments for that decision maker and or for their team. And there's a wide range of what we mean by assessments. For some of our clients, they're using maturity models and they're doing an assessment on a department or a division or an organization as a whole. Other times they're using people assessments because they're in the coaching space, they're in the people space. But anytime you can use an assessment to help give a decision maker a baseline as to where they are, along with a briefing on some things that they could do to improve on where they are, that holds tremendous value. And the last example I'll share with you are business intelligent discussions, where you take all the insights and knowledge that you've gained as an outside expert, as a thought leader, and you roll that up to share some industry trends, expertise, best practices, emerging best practices, even dying best practices with those decision makers one-on-one. And this is often done most effectively right when you have returned from attending a big industry conference, where you've gotten new data, new insights, you've heard new case studies, and you've been able to not just gather, but really synthesize all of that input, and now use that as an opportunity to go out and brief decision makers who are in your professional network, who are in your orbit, one-on-one. So those are 3 examples of how to bridge into one-on-one conversations with decision makers. And oftentimes it's in those conversations that decision makers will say, you know, I think we could actually use your help with a few things. And that's exactly what you are looking for. Now, I promised at the beginning to share with you one strategy that you want to avoid at all costs because it can hurt your credibility. And that is the idea of offering free discovery sessions. You often see this as a popular strategy in the solopreneur world, the internet marketing world, the B2C world. That does not translate effectively at all over to the B2B space. So please do not offer free discovery sessions to serious decision makers inside of organizations. They do not help you. They will either scratch an itch that you don't necessarily want to scratch, or they will veer off course and not really lead to a place of a deeper business relationship. So we highly encourage you to skip that strategy and instead focus on the other ones that we have discussed. So these tips are really just the start. If you're serious about landing and expanding with high-end, high-quality clients, I highly recommend that you go check out my video on how to sell to corporate clients. We go even deeper into some of the challenges that you face there and strategies to help you build your business growth plan. I've dropped the link to that in the description right below, and I will see you over there in just a minute.